So next, we're going to have a chat with David.
Hello.
Hello, David.
Hi.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, from what you were saying earlier, it's been a quiet Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, too quiet for me.
Too quiet. Okay. Well, hopefully this will be a slight antidote to this, maybe. But I suppose you've had time to work on your book. Is that what you ended up doing?
Oh yeah, I mean it's been a much bigger magnitude of a task than I ever imagined. The truth of the matter is that when you start delving into the deep, dark secrets of all of the attempts to procure through fair means or foul any of the assets of Commodore, you start unearthing some real skeletons in closets. And to be honest with you, this publication is going to be totally epic in so many ways. However, I have to put people on notice that Trevor and I's problem is that we've now reached, I think it's about 2015 or maybe 2012 so far in our journey from 1995 through to today, and we've already filled the book up. So when I launched the Kickstarter, I said, as I did the first one, I have no idea how long this book is going to be in terms of content, but what I will promise to do is to produce a book of at least the same size, around the same size as the first one. That was 368 pages and 90,000 words. We are currently at just around 100,000 words, and we've still got a lot to go. So we're in a bit of a dilemma, really, because the truth of the matter is that we can't have a book that's the size of an encyclopedic edition of something. It's just not what people want. So we're in the throes at the moment of working out what the options are. But anyway, I mean, as far as the audience is concerned, I can promise you this book is totally awesome. There are so many things that nobody even remotely knew about, and I think for me one of the biggest things is, remember, I didn't know any of this at all because I was completely out of the scene. But what is amazing is that people turn up and they're involved with some organization or they're on their own, and anyway they end up coming out of the scene, and then a year or two later they'll turn up again with a different organization, and they keep on popping up like bad pennies. Excuse me. It is an enthralling book, and I promise anybody who's really interested in the truth, this book is going to blow his socks off. It really, really is.
And how would you say it's like? I mean, I have Commodore, the Inside Story here, and a lot of us have it. So how is this book going to be different?
Well, what I'm saying is that I've already reached that size of book, and we've got several years still to write.
Okay.
So the dilemma is the thought is that we might have to do a second volume.
Yeah.
Which is something I never imagined. But when you've got so much good material, and what I can't do is to leave half a story behind. That wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
So,
well, there are comments in here supporting that. Let's see. I see one, Chris, saying I would fully support a second book if there's a second book in it. That's great.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there can be. However, I really feel quite. I'm very close to all the people who backed the first book and this one, and so I'm going to come up with some solution which doesn't cost them as much money as it should do, because as I said, I had no idea how much content was going to be in this book, but I can absolutely promise everybody that the book will be an epic, and it will be a book that everybody will certainly treasure. If you're interested in Commodore and its background, and Amiga, of course, this is a not to be missed manuscript. it's incredible. The amount of material that Trevor's got is you know, a massive amount. Plus, we're also getting in touch with all those people from years ago and saying, what's your spin on it today? What do you think? This is what we've got. This is what we've reported. What are you saying today? And so many people are contributing, and we didn't think they would. You know, because some of those things are not things that you're necessarily very proud of.
And what do you put these new revelations down to? Is it because this book is dealing with a different chapter in time that you're talking with different people now?
Yeah, because of course in my first book everything was from the period that I was involved. So for me it was very, I won't say it was easy, but it wasn't difficult because it was my own experiences. And I think I've said this before, but when I actually read Commodore the Inside Story back the first time to myself, I didn't like it at all because it was a story more about David Pleasance than it was about Commodore. But then I thought again, well, actually, it can't be very different because this is from my ears and my eyes. So then I thought, well, the best thing I can do is to broaden the contributions, but it must be contributions from people who were also within Commodore. So that's why I got all the other people to write their own chapters, their personal perspective of that time at Commodore. And I'm really glad I did because it added such a lot of different flavors to the book from different people's angles, you know, engineers' angles and marketing people's angles and so on. And I'm very happy with the way that the book came up, and clearly I must have done something right because I'm now down. I've almost sold 2,500 books, which is unheard of, incredibly unheard of, and that's not through any bookshops. That's all direct to my audience. Yeah. But having mentioned that, now I can announce a very nice thing, that I have now signed a publishing contract. And so Commodore the Inside Story and From Vultures to Vampires will both be available in the bookstores, people like Waterstones, W.H. Smith's, in book chains in the UK, in USA, Australasia, and I think Europe as well. I've got yet to clarify that, but it'll be the first time that both of the books are going to be in the bookstores, which is an amazing thing, to be honest with you. I'm filled to bits.
That is amazing. My God, that's fantastic.
And I've been back onto them yesterday and told them about my dilemma about maybe having to have a second volume of From Vultures to Vampires. And they said, well, they'll just add that one in as well.
That's amazing.
So it's really, it's the first time I can honestly say now I will be a published author.
That's absolutely fantastic. Oh, congratulations, David. I'm really, really happy for you and us.
Yeah, well, it's going to be good for everybody because, you know, you imagine you're at an airport waiting to get on a plane and you see the book there. How heartening is that for a community? It's fabulous, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, lots of comments here in the chat saying this is really great news. Really great news. Congratulations. Yeah. David, I have a question. You know, sometimes, you know, some of the junctures in Amiga involve court cases and stuff like that, and you sometimes see debate or discussion online about what the documents mean. Does the book kind of simplify those things so that we can understand it more than that? You know, how things changed hands and where things are now.
Yes, I think you'll find so. I mean, unfortunately, lots of the actual court documents are not available. They don't release them. But we can certainly give you the who did what and when and how and what the outcome was. But we can't go into the actual details of what the court case may or may not have been. We're not really, even though I use the term in the subtitle, I use the term copyright chaos. That is, and I actually make a note of it at the front of the book. It's a terminology used to cover anything where there was a dispute about something by somebody over something. So it may not necessarily be copyright, although in fact in a lot of the cases it is, but it's just a generic term so people can understand what the book is about.
Okay, I'm actually really excited now, David. I'm really eager to start reading this. Now, recently, Amiga Inc. changed ownership, and I'm wondering, did that make a difference to your book? Did you have to include that, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, this book was going to be right up until the last minute we sent it off to be printed. So we're adding material all the time. And of course, I think the interesting thing is that to the stage we're at to now, I think we've got to 15 chapters, um, uh, is at the point where it's really from then on that we start to get lots more technology developed. Because there was a lot more developed in the last 5 or 8 years than there was in the first 15. So that part of the book will have a lot of the technology. And we go into great detail about the technology, and we've got lots of pictures of the technology, a lot of stuff that was designed and never got released, all of this sort of stuff. So it is a very, very informative book. I just know if people, I mean, look, I know your audience is the exact target audience for me, and I know that they're absolutely going to love what this book reveals.
Great. Yeah, and I mean the hardware development is still going on today. We just had somebody on at about 1:30 today. They've created a new joystick controller for the Amiga that allows a load of extra inputs that were thought not possible before, and it works without modifying the computer at all. And it changes basically the nature of the games. It lets you control them in a more kind of intimate way. It's a really interesting new development coming out still for this machine.
Well, let me say to that person, anybody else, anybody who's developing something, please get in touch with me, because we would like to feature it in the book. You know, we want the book to be as up to date as it possibly can be, bearing in mind that it'll take 4 to 6 weeks for the printing turnaround time. But my guess is that we'll, if we do volume 1 and volume 2, volume 1, I did an update on the Kickstarter about 2 or 3 weeks ago, to say that it was going to be a little bit later than the end of February that I'd first indicated in the Kickstarter, but only by a few weeks. Mostly the reason for that is that because of the lockdown, there was a massive surge in people buying and reading books. And as a result of that, the printers have been inundated with orders, and 2 things happened. One is that they put all their prices up, which you would expect. Why not? You know, make hay when the sun shines. Another thing is that they had a lot more books come in to be printed, and they're now just starting to get catching up with all the extra orders that they had. So my guess is that the first volume will be out probably the end of May, thereabouts, allowing for the printing time. Yeah, so that's not too bad. And then my guess is that it'll probably take us another 2 or 3 months to finish the second book.
Okay, so the second book could be out this year.
Oh, it will be. Absolutely will be. I have no doubt about it.
Okay,
I mean, the thing is that the distribution company I'm working with, they're called Unicorn, Unicorn Distribution Group. They do 2 brochures, release brochures a year. One in January the 1st and one July the 1st. And I'm going to be in the July 1st one for Commodore the Inside Story and for From Vultures to Vampires level volume 1. But I'd like to try to also be in there for the second volume if possible. So I need to get it done by, you know, be ready by July.
And David, do you think that maybe getting these books published now could lead to getting Commodore the Inside Story published in a official way?
Well, it is. It is. It definitely is. It's the current book, the Inside Story, that's being going to the bookstores as a distribution deal signed on it, and also From Vulture to Vampires it's signed. So the both books will be released into the marketplace on July the 1st.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, I picked you up wrong. I thought it was just the new book. Fantastic.
No, both better. Books. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
Tell me
amazing.
about it. Yeah.
My God, I might buy them again.
Yeah, and we've actually done a couple of amendments on the Inside Story for its reprint. Obviously, it has to have a different ISBN number, and it's also now being published by the Unicorn Publishing Group and not by Downtime Publishing, this version. So what we've done is we've taken out because it didn't make any sense to have it in there, all of the backers' names that did the Kickstarter, because they've already got their copies with their names in, and anybody buying the book knew they're not interested in who backed it way back in, 2 years ago. So, and we've also rectified a couple of minor amendments that we discovered, a couple of typos, and a couple of statements that people made that have been questioned. So we've amended those. So when the book is reprinted, it's basically the same, but just been tidied up a little bit.
Okay, very good. And David, you were a kind of a market disruptor and also like an innovator in coming up with packs and things like that. You're well known for it, and the names that you put on things, the creative names you put up to make people stop and look. And yourself and Colin Proudfoot, around the time of Commodore's demise, you were looking at ways to possibly reboot or salvage Commodore in some way. If it was today, the way things are now, what would your assessment be? And, would you have maybe advice for people out there? Do you ever look up and see, there's a gap there if I was still in that particular game?
It's an itch that will never be scratched. It's something that's always there. What if? The difference is, though, I think that at the time that Colin and I put together our business plan, we spent months on it. We really did. We spent a lot of time on the business plan, and some of our ideas were designed to contribute revenue from existing products. But also, one of the things that I wanted to do, very, very much wanted to do, and was paramount in actually us getting, we raised $50 million, remember, was that I wanted to license the Commodore name and the Commodore logo for anything with a plug on it. See, as far as I was concerned, Commodore as a computer product had no long-term future, because we'd gone past it with Amiga and so on and so forth. So I was going to license for a small fee, for example, anybody who produced a kettle. So we have a Commodore kettle, Commodore hairdryer, right? Because the reason being that Commodore was a brand name that was available in all the retail stores in Europe, and they would have accepted it as a product, as a brand name, recognizable brand name. Now, what that would have meant is that we would pick some Chinese company who would make certain, the only expense that you have with that kind of idea is you've got to make certain that the quality of the product that is going out with your name on it is up to standard. So the only expense that we would have had would be a team of quality control people whose job it was to ensure that the code of conduct in terms of quality was always adhered to. So then you're in a situation where you've got a Chinese company, let's say they're called Honky Wonky Shonky, right? And they've got a nice product, but nobody's going to buy it with a name like that. So you say, right, we'll charge you 3% of your trade price, and we will give you the logo that you can use and market under our name. That would generate revenue, which then would come back to Commodore, who we would then put back into the Amiga market. It's just another revenue stream coming in that I believe would be very, very large revenue stream. The other thing that we were going to do was that, and in fact, we had meetings with what are they called? I'm forgetting that. Mycronic, the German company, Mycronic, and we had got them. We gave them task to develop a case, a tower case that was designed to be able to take all PCBs, 500, 600, 1200, 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. And what we were going to do is to give an upgrade path so that anybody could go into their local dealer. I'm not talking about Dixon's or any of these, these big guys who don't know how to even put something into a paper bag and ring up it on a till. Talking about going to the independent dealers, who I've always believed in with the heart and soul of our business, and give them an upgrade path. So somebody with a 500 could go into a store and say, right, I've got this 500. I actually want to upgrade to a 1200. And they'll be able to take out any peripherals that worked and fit them in and then they would recycle. Now, in order to do that, we were going to release PCBs on their own. So you don't have to buy a whole machine. If you want to upgrade, you can buy a PCB on its own. That whole thing we called Amiga Infinity. And in fact, Mycronic, after obviously we dropped out of it, Mycronic went ahead and did that, but they called it Infinitive with a V on the end, which is the German version. But we actually contracted them to do that, and they designed that case. So the idea was that we would keep the Amiga going as long as we could with new revisions, but we all knew at some point in time we would have to have a leap forward, and that was we were banking on the project called Hombre, which was taking a RISC-based core and adding to it a 3D rendering agent, a Blizzard chip, chunky planar, 5.1 surround sound stereo was all in this bloody chip, right? That Dr. Ed Hepler was working on, and that was going to be our next product using that. And just to add to it as well, the other thing we wanted to do is we wanted to license the CD32 technology to all the hi-fi companies to put it in their stacking systems so that they could add a new feature. Because if you think about it, there's been nothing new in the stacking system market since Blu-ray. So that would have been a really great way of bringing the cost of the manufacture down, because Hitachi and Pioneer and people like that, they could be producing it and putting it into their systems, paying us a royalty for it. We would buy back from them the mechanics of the CD32 because they got the cost down lower. It was a win-win situation. Plus, what it would have done, something that everybody's been trying to do from the year dot, is to get a computer into the living room. So that was the basis of our plan. There was lots more involved, but I mean, it was one hell of a good business plan. I don't know how much of it could be utilized today. Sadly, the idiots at ESCOM, they let the Hombre go. They just let it go. They owned it, but they let it go. And nobody's, because they didn't actually pick it up, it's not available anymore. And I've spoken to Dr. Ed Hepler a couple of times. He was absolutely, he was really distraught because he'd put over 2 years work into that project, and he showed it to me. When Colin and I went to Westchester to do our due diligence about what we were going to be bidding for, I went to see what they'd got technology-wise, and Ed showed me, he cobbled together the software. But I'm telling all your listeners, you've never seen anything like it in your life. And there's nothing on the market today that comes even close to it. All the technology today is making the classic Amiga better. There isn't a leap forward, is there? Isn't there? You might argue that, but in my opinion, there's nothing that's really brought out brand new technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's an argumentative.
I think that's fair. But speaking of new technology, there's new stuff out. Like you've always said you called yourself technically illiterate, jokingly. But the last time I met you, we were talking in Athlone. You actually educated me on the Vampire. You told me, look, it can run Atari cores and stuff like that, and it does this and it does that. And I was like, I can't believe I'm learning all this from David, the guy who's been telling me that he's not that into computers. So where did the sudden shot in technical literacy come from?
Well, no, it's just that I was at Gamescom in Cologne, 2019, sorry, and I met the guys. I met Gunnar and the guys from the Apollo team, and they showed me what they're just ready to launch, and it blew my socks off. It's the best technology I've seen since Commodore. I know that there are other similar systems that do different things, some better than others, and so on and so forth. And in the book, we do not take sides. The fact that I use Vampire in the title is just bloody good marketing. Let's be honest about it. Because what it's really, I must tell you this story, it's absolutely true, right? I told Trevor, this is what I want to call the book. And then he said, okay. And then, I don't know, it must have been 2 months later, we came across an interview with Dave Haney in 2018. And Dave Haney quotes, I can't remember the exact wording, but something like, I got fed up with all the vultures picking away at the bones of Commodore la-da-la-di-la. And he said that in 2018.
Oh, wow.
So that was so perfect. And so I think that the name From Vultures to Vampires is really good because it covers that span of time from the beginning right through to this. And yeah, I mean, some people have argued about they don't like the name Copyright Chaos, but as I said, we explain it as being anything to do with any kind of situation where people challenge something for something, and there's a lot of that.
Okay, very good. So do you think that, you know, looking with your kind of marketing eye, and your kind of market disruptor kind of eye as well, when you look at the way these guys are operating, do you think they're doing a good job, or do you see gaps where you think they could maybe change something?
Well, the truth of the matter is they've all been hampered, which is really the crux of this whole story in the book. Anybody who started some kind of a project, as soon as they mention, you know, Commodore, or they mention Amiga, they get somebody slapping them on the wrist saying you can't have it. It's my technology. It's my trademark. You can't use it, and that has put a real dampener on so many people who wanted to do really good things. And I think that's a real tragedy. And one of the things I'm sort of on a mission to do, and I'm hoping that, I mean, once the books are finished, I'm going to sort of go all out with this mission. I want to bring all the people in this community together under one umbrella so that they support each other and not stop fighting each other over nonsensical things, some things which don't really mean much anyway. Get them all under one umbrella, and I've got a really good idea for that, which I won't tell you now. I've got to have something up my sleeve. But I would love to try to bring our community together and come under one alliance, where money is generated, and that goes back to support people with their marketing, with their designs, with development, and so on and so forth. And there is a way it can be done, but it's in our hands. It's in the community's hands. They'll either grab it and run with it and say yes, let's do it, or they'll treat it with disdain and say, oh, that'll never work, and then walk away.
I tell you, I believe you, David. You know, if anybody can do it, you could do it. And the comment here, Chris says, this would be a dream for our community. And John says, I'll drink to that. Mario, do it. Yeah. So, yeah, fantastic that you're even thinking along those lines.
Yeah. So let me reiterate again. Anybody who's developing something new that is coming out, or it's just come out, or it's coming out in the next 2-3 months, please get in touch with me. Email at davidpleasance.com. It's pretty easy to remember. And then we'll talk with you about it and see how we can include it in the book, because we want this, on the day it comes out, we want it to be as up to date as possible. So if you've got something that you've been hiding away in secret but you're getting ready to launch, tell us about it. We won't tell anybody about it until you want us to, up until the time the book is released, obviously.
Okay, fair enough.
Hopefully that excites people.
Yeah, excites me. And judging by the comments here, it's exciting others as well. If you have any questions, folks, you can pop them in the chat. If you could please put the word question in all caps in front, it helps me find it. David, I have a question for you. I remember when so the kits, the packs that you came up with, they were all like, they all had a balance of certain things that would get somebody's eye, to be a game for the kids, something education for the parents, or whatever. I remember when I got one of the Commodore 64 C packs. I think it was the Night Moves, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was in the box or not, but I got it because I got it secondhand. But there was a programming manual in it that taught you, you typed in all these programs, and it was something I never saw again in the Amiga. So like the Amiga was kind of the artist's tool and less the programmer's tool as far as the packs were concerned, say. And I wonder, was that an intentional choice, or do I just have my history wrong?
No. To be honest with you, I can't remember. I mean, I remember the pack very well. We were doing a lot of stuff with Domark, and they had all those puzzles and all those sort of things which we thought were really intriguing at the time. But we always tried to put in a productivity software, word processing or whatever, because at the end of the day, you have to justify in the parent's mind how they're going to spend that money, why they're going to spend that money. Now, by giving word processing and art and stuff like that, which the parents could say, this is for my child's education. We all knew it was the games they wanted, but you had to really fulfill the desires of the parents to shell out the money. But I can't remember exactly. I mean, we did some really amazing packs for the 64. We were the first ones with the 64. We had a mouse in there in the 64 in a pack called what's it called, Connoisseur Collection. We had a product called the Neos Mouse and Cheese. It was an art package with a mouse that you used to draw with, Japanese product. And the guy I bought that from, he was Japanese living in London, and we bought so many from him. I think we bought 200,000 pieces from him. They made him a director of his company. That was amazing. We also did a product called with the light gun in, the Light Fantastic pack. It was a light gun that you could play games with. That was well ahead of its time as well.
Yeah.
They weren't all blazing successes, I have to say. I mean, I did a pack. I can't remember what it was called, but it had a keyboard, a musical keyboard in it. I think it was a Casio keyboard. That was an absolute dog. That did not sell at all. We had to take them all back. Nobody wanted it. It was just one of those things that just was a dead duck before it even started. But there's a funny aside to that, is that we had to take all the packs back from the dealers, unpack them, and I was left with, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 of these keyboards, whatever it was. And I sold them to a guy called Howard Stroman. He was a real wheeler dealer, and his company was called PST, which is, have I got a deal for you? His company's called PST, right? And I sold him all these keyboards, and he reckons I'm the only person in his whole life that's ever sold him a lemon. He's probably still got the bloody things. You have to laugh.
You do. And there's some questions here, David, before we continue on. Will you be signing the books in the store at some point?
I'm not signing them to the Kickstarter from day one.
This is in store is the question. Will you be in a bookshop,
Yeah, I can be, but of course I intend to be at as many events, Commodore and Amiga events as there is coming this year. I'll be as many of them as I can, and I'll be very happy to sign books, or I'll sign computers or trapdoors or whatever. People bring all sorts of things to get me to sign. Very happy to do so. I absolutely adore going to these events and meeting the people. It's sort of, for me, it's like I get treated like a rock star, and to be honest with you, I like that. I like it a lot.
Great.
And people line up to put a beer on the table. You can't go wrong with that.
Fantastic.
People know me exactly who I am.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to putting more beer on your table. We have more questions here as well.
Okay.
As a businessman in branch that lives from developing the next best hardware, how does it feel on a personal level to see that almost 40 years later, those machines are still admired, used, extended, talked about?
Oh, it's absolutely overwhelming. I mean, what I say to people, and I've said this all along, and you know this, is that after we got cheated out of our management buyout bid, I just completely disappeared. I went under the radar. I changed my life completely. I had nothing whatsoever to do with the industry. I remarried. I married a Dominican girl. Went to Dominican, lived in the Dominican Republic for a while. Went to Australia, had a restaurant for 5 years. All sorts of different things. And then I came back to the UK, and then I got an invitation to be a speaker at the Amiga 30 event in Amsterdam. I also got one more or less the same time for the 30th event in Neuss in Germany. So imagine I go into this event, the Amiga 30 event in Amsterdam, and not only do I get swamped with people asking me for my autograph, which I thought was, I was in shell shock, but people really sort of hanging on every word, and it's really been unbelievable. So for me, because I swear to you on my life and on my children's life, I had no idea in all those years I was away that anybody was even thinking about me. Why would I? I know at Commodore, I'm pretty sure I did a good job, but I really didn't know that there was so much love and affection by this fantastic community of ours, and I thrive on it. I really, really do.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, you deserve to. Here's another question from Alessandro. Had there been any talks with Commodore on the possibility to vet or oversee the publication of games Nintendo style or to a lesser degree? So in-house game production, I think, is the question.
No, well, obviously, maybe a lot of your audience don't know, but Commodore used to be in the software business. And to be honest, they were absolutely god awful at it. They couldn't manage inventory. The only thing they had a success with was International Soccer for 64. That was a very good selling game, but they used to publish games and collect royalties, cartridges and stuff like that. But when Commodore moved out of Commodore Corby, which I'm thinking was about 93. No, 83, sorry, about 83. I had to dispose of all of the excess inventory. And there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of games that Commodore had published that didn't sell. And that must have lost them an absolute fortune. And to be honest with you, I personally don't believe in harnessing creative people who want to write software by charging them fees, restricting them what they can and can't do. I think in order to encourage creativity, you've got to give people as much freedom as possible. And I know one thing that I did, which I am very, very proud of. I can guarantee we were the first hardware company to sign up for FAST, the Federation Against Software Theft. We signed up as a hardware company. I signed it and paid the annual fee because we want the software houses to live forever. You know, without software, we haven't got anything, and without hardware, they haven't got anything. And that was the basis on which I did all the negotiations for putting the packs together. That it was a win-win situation, and I'm very proud of that.
And what year would that have been? What year did that start?
The bundling.
The FASP.
Yeah, let me just think back now. I'm guessing that we signed in about 85, 4, 5, something like that.
Okay.
Because this was 64 software that was being pirated in the schoolyards. You know, right. Xcopy and stuff like that. I think it was. You know.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to show support for software houses because if you think about it, we each need each other.
Yeah. And of course, piracy continued well on into the 90s. Some developers give out a lot about it. I remember reading there was a game called Soccer Kid, and the developer of that, I remember saying that, he felt that the sales were quite low compared to how many copies. It seemed like everywhere he went, people were playing the game at that stage. So, like, was that group effective? Do you think, or had they a different kind of remit than enforcement?
I really am not in a position to comment how effective FAST were. All I know is that what they stood for was right for the industry. Whether they did a good job or not, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
I'm not informed enough.
And just to play devil's advocate, and I think this question was actually asked before at Amiga Ireland, but on one hand, the piracy could well have sold hardware units. I mean, I know a lot of people who they knew if they could get enough money for the Amiga that they could get the game to the price of a floppy disk, and they just edged it over. So do you think that there's another side to the coin?
Yeah, well, inevitably there must be, and it would be foolish to pretend to and ignore it. But just think about it, guys. I mean, Sega and Nintendo, they licensed their games. They both still went bust. They both still couldn't make a living out of it. I mean, it's not a highway to the gold coin store, is it? It's tough work. It's very, very tough work. But I don't know. At the end of the day, people are inventive, and some people love. They absolutely spend their whole life cracking something that people say can't be cracked, just to prove they can do it. And then they let it loose and release it onto the market. Yeah. And the devastation. Who can actually ultimately account for that?
Yeah, fair enough. A few comments here for you, David. Michael Nerney says, I still owe you a beer.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell Mike and Angie I accept.
Mikhail asks, do you take care of the entire publishing process, which takes more time but offers better profitability? Or rather, do you rely on an established publisher already out there? I think you've answered that already.
Yeah, well, in the first book, I mean, just take the first book, which was completely mine, right? Not in co-authorship with Trevor. I wrote the book. I got it to proofread 2 or 3 times. There's still mistakes that slip through, and then I used a guy called Simon Busby, who is a professional book editor, layout, and all of that stuff. But he works in the legal profession, and he's bored to death with doing this legal stuff because it's all legal manuals and things like that. So he actually approached Dan and Ravi about doing a book of their podcast, which they ended up not doing. But they put me onto him. So Simon did all the layout for the book, which I really liked, and so I'm paying him to do the same with this new book, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but in terms normally a publishing deal, they will do all that layout, and they'll put that money up, and then they'll pay you less on each book that they sell. But because I'd already got this one out, and I'd sort of committed to Simon to do the new one, they said, "Oh, no worries. We won't. We're happy with the quality of it." So effectively, I am bypassing them. I guess if I'd met them right at the beginning, I might have used them, but which is what I think most people do. But these guys are really distributors rather than publishers, even though they call themselves a publishing company. That their main job is to get your product distributed into the retail sector in a big way. They only handle 50 or 60 books a year, and largely they don't even handle fiction at all. They're a bit more upmarket than that,
Okay. So we'll take one more question from the chat. Vicky asks, would Amiga have died without the Batman pack?
Ooh, well, it's a question I'm not sure I can answer. I think they probably would have done, but the thing that Batman changed the whole dynamics. I mean, when I come up with the idea of the Batman pack, I only committed to 10,000 pieces because we had no idea if it was going to be a success or not. I was pretty bullish about it, bullish enough to commit to 10,000 pieces, which is a lot if it goes wrong. But we ended up buying 186,000 pieces of software because that's how many Amigas we sold in 12 weeks. Now, where I think the mistake was made is that having proven that UK subsidiary, look at the volume of sales we've done by using this kind of marketing, let's do it across all of Europe. And they wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't understand that, as long as I've got a hole in my backside. How can you not do something that's so proven to be so successful? All you got to do, and it would have been so much cheaper. You imagine going to the oceans of this world and saying, give me a good deal on 10,000 pieces. You got to say, give me a good deal on 500,000 pieces. I mean, and then when you design all your artwork for the packaging, you do it in different languages. You send the artwork to each country. They get it printed in their own country. The amount of money that you save. You then do your advertising, and you do it all in multiple languages. You save a fortune. Every single Commodore subsidiary was given a percentage of their sales to do their own marketing, and they all did different things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, David, I have one more question for you before we wrap up. We all have, you talked about how you just walked away from Commodore, you left it all behind you and moved on to a different life. Meanwhile, all of us are here with like all the junk from the 80s filling up our houses, Commodore 64s, Amigas, the whole shebang. Did you keep any memorabilia at all from your past and your time at Commodore?
No, not at all, sadly. But to be honest with you, only because I moved so many times, and I moved internationally. I moved to the Dominican Republic. I moved to Australia. I moved to America. you just can't keep dragging all that stuff around with you. And of course, you've got different voltages and all that kind of thing. So the honest truth is, no, hardly anything. The only thing I did have left was, which I discovered by accident, was I had the royal warrant that was issued to Commodore Business Machines when I joined them in Slough. They'd just got that for selling pets to the Queen, and I actually rescued that from a skip. So what happened was I eventually found it, and I had a colour photocopy made of it. So anyway, I gave one to the Cambridge Museum, a computer museum, and one to Andy's museum in Leicester, the Retro Computer Museum, and they've got them displayed up on the walls in their various places. But that's it. That I didn't keep anything. I think I've got a Commodore keyring somewhere.
Is there anything you'd like to have hung on to if you think back?
Oh no! I just wish I'd done the deal that Chip Hawkins did with Jack Jamil. Chip Hawkins was a UK-based guy who was looking after Commodore UK when they launched the VIC-20 and then the 64, and he did a deal with Jack Jamil, and I think it was for every 64 they sold, he got $2. And he then said he wanted to he made a lot of money, of course, and he then wanted to leave Commodore. And Jack said, "Look, no, we're opening a branch in the Bahamas as part of our tax, efficiency drive. We'll give you a job in the Bahamas." And he's been in the Bahamas ever since. I met him a few years ago, but that's what I would like to have got, because I had a lot of shares in Commodore. Of course, they all went down the toilet pan.
Well, Trevor, David, if you'd like to hang on, you're more than welcome to. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to just have a few drinks in the chat without any, there's no scheduled items from 8 o'clock. So you're welcome to come and have a drink with us.
Yeah, I wish. I wish it was for real. I'm sitting here with a glass of soft drink.
Okay.
But only so I stay sober for this. That's all. No, I probably won't. I probably won't stay online. Much as I love you guys, I've still got a book to write, so I won't be lazy. I will be working. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to me, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and congratulations again, David. And there's a lot of comments here in the chat saying thanks for your time. And we're looking forward to your book very much. Thank you, David.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Long live Amiga.
Yeah. Okay, so that was great. Now we're going to be having a workshop at 5 o'clock. Okay, so that's just about 10 minutes. So I think we'll have a quick demo and a bit of music. Yeah, okay, so 7 minutes to go. Okay, so I'll switch off here and we'll play a bit of a demo and we'll catch you back at the top of the hour. But before we go there, the high scores. We have a new Victor, but his name isn't Victor, it's Aris Amiga. He's at the top of normal in Dodgy Rocks with over 10,000 points. And we have Giro Lamo still at the top of the Nightmare section of Dodgy Rocks, and Emu Freak at the top of Pinball Fantasies. And we still have one entry to Swiv there. Okay. Lovely. Okay, folks, see you at the top of the next hour. Thanks for the questions. They were great.